Well folks, welcome back to the workshop. Today we've got a Makita sander and repair. This ain't the standard orbital sander, this is the power driven sander. This is the bigger model, more expensive unit. The BO6050 is a 750 watt orbital sander. Just a standard orbital sander, or you can change it over to a gear driven sander. She actually locks in. So it's gear driven to take off more material, a lot more powerful. It takes off a little more material, but can sometimes take off too much. So this is in for repair to see if we can get her fixed up. But the base isn't exactly looking the best in this thing. And that can be dear enough on its own. Velcro's completely gone and she's starting to come away from the sponge. That cost about 50 or 60 euro alone. So already this is getting a wee bit expensive. These here cost about 300 or 400 euro to buy. So they're well worth fixing up if they can be fixed. But the question is, what's actually wrong with it first? Something going on in there. Sounds like their gears getting chewed or something. Right. We're going to have to just get under and see if we can fix it. Start off with the base here. Base off and just start stripping. I want to see it's actually wrong first, because this could be an expensive fix. It's definitely getting used to now. Plenty of use she's getting. It's all just dust, it's not grease. I don't know if we're using it mahogany or what, but right. We'll give it a quick clean down first, and then we'll see about getting under the gearbox, because I don't want the grease getting contaminated if I don't need to get it contaminated with sawdust. Is that a 3D printed part? I think somebody made that, look. Yeah. That's been 3D printed, look. Somebody got fed up of trying to have a clasp that held the actual dust extracting port, so we got one mid. Don't blame them. Right, blow this down first. I'm really hoping this is just a bearing, not a stripped out gear. Because a bearing will be a lot cheaper to fix. I have to open up this gearbox as well before we can even take out the motor in this thing, because the screws for the head are underneath this cover. What is going on there? Just a longer screw. There's the problem. Broken gear teeth. So we're going to have to order parts. Luckily it doesn't look to have damaged the other ones. I would say the actual Velcro pad in this gives us a clue as to what actually happened. Like most boys using orbital sanders, they get too close to the edge and start slamming it on. And this gets caught in the edge and starts banging about. They destroy the Velcro on the base. But when it's a gear driven drive sander like this, it's actually geared, driven round, and she starts slamming into that, acting like a brake. You can just snip off the teeth. So if you're using these here, it's best not to be too rough with them. Open surface, not near the edges, is the best way to use them. Now this was still running. Surprisingly enough, it did not damage them gears. We might get away with that. But we'll have to wash some of this out. There's the teeth. So whenever this is running, it's just motor's driving this spindle and it's driving this. So this is always turning. But whenever you engage the top, it locks these teeth and engages them. So whenever this turns, it turns the center as well. So the rest of this looks alright actually. Don't think I need to go down on here. A chance just giving that a clean out. Right, my problem is counted 4 gear teeth that came out of it, but there's clearly more than 4 that came off it. Looks more like 10 or so broke off. Might be up in here actually. That's them there. They've actually gone through the cover. They've actually embedded into the plastic and shot out the side. That's the way that screw was catching as well. It's actually gone through there. So that top plate needs to be replaced as well. There's still more in here actually, maybe they're not. I was wondering maybe if they got down inside the gear here, but I don't think they did. I suppose if they get in there, you would hear about it. No, I think that's okay. Might give this a quick wee blowout and a washout. That might sort it. Not going to be fixing this now today anyway, because I don't have this part. I'm going to have to order that in. So I'll finish this off another day and we'll come back to it. For now, quick wee clean out, clean that cover, and I'll get these parts ordered on, including this top cover as well. And that's another perfect example of why I like working on Makita tools. This is the part we need, number 9, this wee spur gear. Also going to get the bearing as well, just in case I need it. That's number 9. So spur gear 31 227386-9. If I search that number, and my supplier sheets, that's it there, spur gear 31 for the BO6050, no longer available, gone. See part number 226935-9. I search that instead, I get this new number, same gear, part number 31, replaces the old one. In other words, that was a fault. I have done this repair before. It's been a few years since I've done it, but I have replaced this gear before on other sanders, and that's the one that breaks this year, spur gear. So Makita have identified that as a recurring problem and have redesigned it and taken out a new, stronger part. So the old part is gone, this old number. Now they have a newer, stronger one. So this should be the last time this particular sander should need to get this repair, because this here has now been strengthened. Makita have seen the problem and have fixed it. That's why I like working on Makita tools. They take a bit of pride in their machines and they don't like them failing. When they see something like this, a recurring problem, they will generally update it or change the part so that it doesn't happen again. That's why I don't trust a brand that just hands you out a new machine and they break under warranty. Might be nice to get a new machine when it's under warranty, but if Makita had just replaced this with a new machine when they're under warranty and one breaks, they wouldn't know about this problem. It's the repairs, the spare parts being ordered to fix a problem that allow the brand to know when something's going wrong, when a part is failing. If it's just been replaced, they just replaced the whole tool, they never know what the actual deeper problem is. So because that keeps getting repaired, Makita keeps seeing that spare part being ordered, they know there's a problem. Any brand that just hands you a new one has no interest in the machine running properly, or if there's any problems with it. They hand you a new machine every time there's a problem under warranty. They never know of any recurrent problems inside. It's only when they see the spare parts being ordered from the warranty repairs that they know there's a problem. That's why I like Makita, because they don't just give you a new machine. You always have to repair them under warranty, replace the broken part, so Makita can know what's failing. Stick us to one side now and wait for these parts to come on. Right, I think this has been resting out in the shelf for quite long enough. Parts are finally in. All the bits are here, and next day delivery. Couldn't ask for better. Yeah, right, of course it's not next day delivery. Some of these took a while to come on. The actual base did take very next day, but the rest had to wait for 18th of the 6th these are ordered. So exactly a month today it's going to be rebuilt. I was ordered that day and now we're going to rebuild it, but they did actually come on maybe about a week or so ago, only getting time now to actually put it back together again. So let's get it back together. I also just washed out these parts too, because some of them were a little bit dirty, especially the cover, so we didn't go any further than that. So we can get rid of the base. This here little rubber sleeve, we can get rid of it. I'm going to keep the little felt sleeve inside. Actual rubber sleeve is a bit tore up, so we'll replace that, but the wee felt one's fine. I also need to get the screw out as well, because the tooth this actually went through the cover and jammed up the screw. And the cover, get rid of that, but keep the O-ring. Now, was there anything else? Ordered the bearing and the gear, so we can get rid of that. I think that's it. Now, most of the parts on this aren't too expensive. I'll just show you the part numbers as well in case you're needing them. This wee cover is only $4.60 plus the VAT. It's only plastic, but decent enough price. We'll keep going up in price here. The little rubber sleeve, dear for what it is, $5.50 plus the VAT. The brake ring is called. Actual wee skirt for the sides of it. Wee protector, that's the part number. That's only a $5 plus the VAT. These are cheap enough, but when you order enough parts, the prices keep creeping up and up and up. Now we're starting to get into the rear stuff. 15 plus for the bearing. That is an oddball bearing though, not a standard one. Don't even have that one in stock. The gear, 46 plus. Spur gear, that's the part number. That's dear enough, and if you also destroy this one, you're into even more money. And did I check this one? Yeah, there was a wee scuff basically around the inside, but nothing damaged. So that's our new gear, and then the dearest bit then for any Velcro sander is the base 6040 plus the VAT. That's the part number. This is different from the standard Velcro base in the smaller standard Velcro sander. This here's a powered one, so this one's a wee bit firmer, is it? Maybe it's a little bit softer, but not the same one, different fit knot. Right, nothing else to do now apart from rebuild. And we'll start off with the little simple bits. There's just a little bit of foam on the bottom of this. Then your actual gear slides inside of it. That's sitting in there. A little grease in here first because the gear is going to be getting on, but also just to stick in this here. A little washer goes on too. That's that little assembly. Top cover then. Now the only real awkward part to assemble is the actual gear. And this is the improvement one. To be honest, I can't see much difference. I think that one's actually broken on top too long. Just chipped that there bit off. Maybe they didn't have it locked in right. I don't see much different there at all. Wonder if it tells you anything on the spec sheet maybe. Right, don't actually see any physical difference in these, nor do I have an upgraded sheet to tell me what was done. The only thing I can see is just the shade of it is a little different. Unless this has been heat treated a wee bit differently, or maybe there's a different mix of powders going into it. Because this is actually a powder metallurgy gear. It's not cut. This is just from metal powders and binders put together in a press and then heated up to set them. So when modern metal parts like this are done, then maybe the shoulder here will be machined. But unless the mixes have been changed or the heat treatment has changed, the actual shape of the gear is the same, but they've changed something on it. The gear is actually able to be just pressed on too. Nothing complicated about this at all. Now what's actually happening here, how this thing works, it's built like a grinder. It has a spindle gear on here, a bevel gear driving this bevel gear. That's what this here is. This gear is attached to the center shaft onto this here counterweight. So whenever the motor runs, it's just spinning this here counterweight, and it acts like a standard Velcro sander or orbital sander. That spins and causes your pad to oscillate around. It's only the counterweight spinning. This isn't actually spinning, this is just counteracting the weight of this here pad because it's off-centered. But the center shaft of it is just free to move. So this is spinning, but causing this here center to spin in an oscillation motion. So as this going round, that'll just be going round and round like this. Whenever you put this against the timber to actually sand, the pad can stay still and it'll just go round and round on an oscillation motion. That's how it's working, just like a standard Velcro sander. The power function comes from this. So the center shaft is spinning, but there's another shaft inside of it, this here one here, that can stay still. So in standard Velcro mode, oscillation mode, this is spinning, but the center won't be spinning. So this gear will just be going round and round. There's a little brake on the bottom of it, it's just pressing against this pad. So when this is in, the motor's running, it's spinning round, and your pad's on the timber. This can actually oscillate around just like the pad, but stay still. So it's locked onto the center gear, and then the bottom of it has the shoulder that hooks onto the bevel gear. So the bevel gear is driving it. It can still stay still on the center, so it can just go round and round. You're getting the drive then from this gear. This will be on top. All this will be connected up and go round and round. This can just sit still. But whenever you take your knob then and put it into power mode, this will slide in and lock this gear. So if this one's locked and this one's not, it's just oscillating around. What actually happens is this will then start to walk around the fixed gear. So it'll still be oscillating, but as it oscillates, because this can now not move, it'll force this big gear to start walking around. It'll literally walk its way around this gear. So the bearing on top is only for all this to just spin free whenever it's in Velcro mode. This will all be just oscillating around, and this will just be walking around, going nowhere, just spinning around with the pad. When you stick it in power mode then, this locks and forces the big gear to walk around it, causing it to actually slowly start to turn. It only turns very mildly, very slow, but it's enough to cause extra material removal and increase your power or your material removal rate in the sander. So get her back together again here now and get her up and running. So just pop a wee bit of grease in there. Didn't strip this whole thing down, just done a wee bit of a repair job on it. Just washed it a quick wee bit. I didn't soak it in the parts washer. So that's all good on there. C-clip on top. Hold that on. That should be this side. Gear bearing sits up on here. Now this doesn't take much grease, but I want at least some on here so it doesn't go dry. And then this metal plate that goes on first, make sure that is in the right position. It has to lock in to the little marks on this top cover. They have to line up. So now, whenever the motor runs, it'll run this outer center shaft, turn this counterweight, cause the sander to do oscillation mode. This will turn, and still the center shaft won't turn because that there bigger gear has the rubber brake on it, and that's pushing against that pad, giving it some resistance. It will turn if you force it. It's not fully locked, it's just a little bit of resistance. So whenever this pad is on, when it spins, the motor will turn and this will oscillate, but it won't spin. But it's not completely stiff or locked that it won't spin at all. So it still will spin a little bit. It won't do full power rotation. It'll still turn. It'll not just spin, and the brake's there to not just allow the disc to just spin on its own very, very fast. Because in a normal Velcro sander, this is just bearings on the bottom. If you run it dry, the base will actually just get centripetal force and actually start spinning on its own, regardless of the motor. They're not power driven, but they'll just spin if they're free. This one won't. So we actually just switch the thing on and show it. Just as long as you don't get the fingers jammed. This is spinning, so it's fully oscillating. You can see this turning, and the base is turning, but it's not locked. You can actually hold this, stop the base from rotating, and the top can do what it likes. doesn't matter if this is against timber or not. It doesn't spin very fast. Regardless of what this is doing, this top gear can just do what it likes. It can just spin around, it's sitting on a bearing. But then, whenever you use the plate, you turn your little knob here. This will actually engage this plate. It'll slide back and lock this here gear. So now with this here one locked in position, if the motor turns or the pad turns, they're all connected up. This here turns, it'll turn the gear inside, but because this is locked, the gear has to walk around. So as your motor turns, your base will also spin as well. And it's not spinning lightly, it is power driven. So it's going to remove a lot more material a lot faster. And what happens in these things, why the gear breaks, the evidence of it is on the base itself, the Velcro pad. Impacts. So if you're doing a big open flat surface, generally it's not going to be a problem. But if you're doing inside a door frame, if you're hitting up against other pieces of timber or something, or hitting against obstacles with this in power mode, you're hitting it and it's jamming this gear, putting it under a shock load. That shock load has been driven directly into the gear teeth. So if you try to stop it enough, if you're hitting something hard when it's running full speed, that shock load can just snap off them gear teeth. Not what you want. And I need her fixed to knock that off. Get rid of that. Just need to take that off simply so we can fit these. We need a spring on here first, and then there's this little metal plate. It's just taking the shape of the plastic housing up here, just so that this isn't rubbing on plastic, just so that it's actually rubbing on a metal part. There's less wear. Obviously, this is metal on metal. A little bit of oil or grease helps it slide, but there's no force required in this to really need to grease it. If you oil or grease this here, obviously with it being a sander, using a lot of dust, it's just going to stick to the grease. You're going to clog it all up. So I wouldn't advise putting grease on it. And that is just sitting in there. Slides up to be unlocked, and the spring pushes it down into the lock position. On top of that then, just have your little selector. Make sure it's in. Next we can stick the housing on. Don't forget this little rubber skirt. This is just to seal up the base, so whenever you're using dust extraction, it's actually sucking all the material out from the holes inside your Velcro base, not just sucking it in from the side, so it gives you better dust removal. There's no edge, that just sits there. We also have this yoke. Another half just goes over the top. Make sure we got this right now. long screws up here. And the rest are all the short screws. New skirt as well. A protector that just clips on. Also forgot to order this here. Could have ordered the man a new bracket as well, but maybe it's 3D printed one. That'll do the job. And then lastly, the most expensive bit. The bit that actually caused them the problem. The base. See, one there's a lot softer. Some of the other ones can actually be quite hard. The black ones. That just goes on here. No bolt, just screws directly on. The Makita sander, pretty sure has a center bolt down through the middle of it. Thought they felt a different width there, but no, they are the same. To lock it on then, just put on your shaft. Locks the width. So we can turn this on, turn it nice and tight. So now in your two modes, you've got your normal Velcro, and you've got your power sander mode turbo button. Just going to put a wee Velcro sheet on this here now before I test it, just in case it damaged the Velcro. I know there's no holes in it. It's not the right one for this here. It's not for use, it's just to keep the pad safe. Don't know if this man's going to come on for it tomorrow. He mightn't come on for a month. And it's lying out in our shelves out here in the repair pile. I don't want the actual Velcro getting damaged. Never noticed that before. This actually has to be overlocked the whole way. Could be a safety feature there. So it'll still lock on, but it's not fully engaged in the switch. You can't put the power on. Never noticed that. So that's it off. This is on a spring, so if it's not fully engaged, it's just going to spring back anyway. And if it happens when you're running, you wouldn't want this to happen when the machine's running, obviously, so you can't actually switch it on until it's in that position. So it also means if it's in there and powered on, it can't come out. It can't accidentally turn. Look at that. Never noticed that before. So that has to either be in one or the other before it'll switch on, look. Never noticed that. Nice wee feature to have. Right, give it a wee test. That's her in power mode there. Tidying up the bench nicely here. So that's it oscillating and forcibly turning as well. And then you go into Velcro mode. She's oscillating and not actually turning. She can just turn a wee bit as you move the machine, but it's not forcibly turning it. Very cool. Wee skirt could be a better fit though. It's just clipped on. It's a bit rattly. Don't like that. But that's the way she is. Can't do much about it. that's it, folks. That's how you fix up your Makita Power sander, the BO6050. If you ever smash the gears on it, if you're using them, be careful you don't hit the edge of the sanding disc whenever they're actually running, or you have a danger of snapping off these little gear teeth. If you break them, you're going to have to replace these here parts to get it up and running again. Maybe not the base, only depends if you actually damaged it. This boy clearly needs a new base. So that's how you change them and get the thing up and running again on your Makita sander. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching. As always, if you're liking tool repair videos, give us a wee like and a follow down below. If you just want to help out the channel, you can either hit that share button, or you can also subscribe as well. Or you can get us on Patreon. But until next time, folks, I'll chat to you later.